Hi everyone, this is the overview of the system. After you install the program, you should be able to open it to the home workspace. The home workspace is where you can get to files, start new files, and also see our help system. I click on watch a movie and there are a lot of movies that are available. In fact, I highly recommend you take a look at those as you get to the different areas. This video is about the overview, or a quick little look-see at how things work. The way the program is laid out is there's a docking bar on top and there are 5 workspaces. The first workspace we've already talked about. It's the home workspace. The next workspace is the analysis. Inside of the analysis is where we get to do all of the spreadsheet work. We have a database workspace. The database workspace is where you can download data into the project so that you can start to do your comparisons to the subject company. And we have a report workspace. The report workspace is where you create your own reports and develop that final work product. The 5th workspace is a subset of the reporting workspace, and it is the workbooks workspace. That's where you can load up other Excel workbooks and use them as a link source into the report. Go back and look at the optional report writer piece to see how that looks and feels. Let's dig into the analysis workspace, the spreadsheet workspace. On the left hand side over here we have the Navigator, and as you click on different nodes in the Navigator, different items show up. You can see that we have charts, we have spreadsheets, we have assumptions. I highly recommend you go from top to bottom on the Navigator and figure out what each schedule is trying to accomplish. While you won't use every schedule in every engagement, you certainly might use that schedule at some point in the future, and at least knowing where they're at is a good deal. Another way to find things is to use the search. So if I click on the bottom down here on search, I can type in my term, RMA, hit find now, and the schedules with RMA in their title will show up. Let me talk about the workspace over here. You have assumptions, and assumptions are what you use to set the different parameters for a particular project. Things on top affect things down below. So in this case here, my setup assumptions are affecting these 5 schedules below. The project assumptions affect all of the different folders. We have a spreadsheet. Now in the spreadsheet, white block cells are where we expect input. You have to type something in there. Blue font cells are where we're mapping to something, or there's an equation in there where we think we're calculating things right, but it may not be so. And then there's black font cells. If I try to edit a black font cell, it'll come up with an error. We've locked it up inside of the framework to make it more quality control. I can type over the blue font cells. In this particular case, the short business name goes to the report writer. So if I don't want to use Childs as a short name, I can type in CCS, and now that will generate anytime I'm using a short name inside of the report. If I want to get that back, there's a restore feature. I go to Tools, Restore, and I click on Yes. That's going to make the standard template equation come back into the project file that I was looking at. And now I can tell that I have my formula back and Child is showing up again. If I want to edit in native Excel, I can use the green X and edit in native Excel. I highly recommend you look at the video for that particular function if that's what you intend to do. Let's go through the docking bar menu items and see what's going on with the third piece of it. Under the analysis menu, I can open or I can start new projects. If I go analysis, new analysis, that's a project file. If I want to create my own template, my own standardized version to start from every time, I go analysis, new template. I can open projects and templates, and I can save the file. I can also save as an analysis or template. The export to Excel is a place where you can copy paste value our schedules out to Excel. The reason this function exists is for people who do not purchase the optional report writer and are writing their own reports in Microsoft Word, and they need to copy and paste schedules to it. Page setup and print are out here. I highly recommend you look at the video for that. Underneath the edit menu, you can edit the sheet name, The sheet name is the same thing as the title, and I'll get to that when we look at the taskbar buttons. Edit directly in Excel is the same thing as the green X icon, where I can go out there and open the project into native Excel and do the flexible things that I need to do out there. Maybe it's bring focus to a particular operating expense, things like that. The copy link is the copy link button, where you copy a cell or range of cells onto the clipboard for use in the report writer. If you purchase the optional report writer, the copy link button will be important to you. The paste link is just the opposite. Instead of pulling the item, it's going to paste the item into the target. Add fiscal period and remove fiscal period are underneath the financial statements. Take a look at those videos and you can see what add fiscal period does. Remove fiscal period does just the opposite. The view button is pretty important. In our framework, sometimes things can get a little bit out of whack and you're not sure where you're at in a particular project. And so to eliminate that, you go to View, Arrange Windows, and you can arrange it full, and it will bring things to the top and snap it in place. This icon over here just to the left of VSP is that same icon that says, let me go over here and go View, Arrange Full. And that will bring things to the forefront. Another trick is that sometimes the docking bar gets lost, and you can come over to the docking bar, click on that, and it will bring the docking bar up, and then I click on the Snap To button, and that will bring everything up into the front. Tools. Tools options is where you set program parameters. Do you want all of your projects to have chronological years or reverse chronological years? Where do we save project files at? Where do we save template files at? You can also create sheets and charts inside of a project or inside of a template. And lastly, the Help menu item. You can go to Help About and see what the latest version of the software is. In this case here, it's 8.14, and it's for Microsoft Office 2016. The other item is Help. Help Online Technical Support will launch a website that we use to connect to your computer over the internet. We use GoToAssist and we can connect. So you type in your name, and this is a 9-digit code that is used to connect through the internet. The icons across the top up here. This save icon saves what's in the workspace only. This double save icon will save anything that's open in any workspace. The print icon will print a single schedule, not a batch of schedules. We already talked about the Edit in Excel icon. This here just makes it easy to get to. The F of X icon is the restore. So if you're down here and you want to restore that formula, you can click on that. And here's the all-important copy link button and paste link button. The blue arrows here will take us forward and backward, and it's more than one level long. So if you want to go to where you were before, you can press the back. If you want to go to where you, after you've gone back and you want to get back to the forward place, you press the forward arrow. These buttons over here are the taskbar buttons. The title is the same thing as editing the sheet name. So if I wanted to change corporation profile here to business profile, then it would change the title of my working paper. The sick NAICS will open up the data space and take me to that particular data source. Now it just depends on what particular schedule you're on. So if I am on the capitalization rate schedule, you can tell I have access to the SBBI data, Duff & Phelps CRISP data, Duff & Phelps risk premium report data, cash flow. If I toggle that on and off, it will open up schedules down below. Pre-tax, it will open up a schedule for my conversion from an after-tax rate to a pre-tax benefit stream. If I'm using WAC, it will allow me to iterate. And then an industry risk premium will take me to a schedule where the industry risk premium is selected. In this case here, I didn't download it, but I would put a 1 out here next to the industry risk premium that I would like to utilize. Those change based off of the schedule you look at. Let's go into financial statements real quick. You can input financial statements that mimic the client's financial statements. I highly recommend you look at the financial statements video to get a feeling for how this works. But in basic overview mode, I will say that you can insert accounts by clicking on the Insert button, and it will bring up a dialog box where you can insert an account. Pay attention to step 5 down here and select the appropriate property. If it's a depreciation expense or an amortization expense or a non-cash expense, make sure that that's tagged appropriately. When you press OK, that particular account will get copied into this schedule as well as the other schedules that are around. The other buttons you can find out in the other movie. How do I normalize? The next step most people go through is a normalization process. So if I go to the Navigator and I go to Adjustments, Income Statements, I can click on an account and I can say Edit Adjustment. It will bring up a dialog box and I can type in a key, A, B, C, D, however much I want to adjust this for. And then I can put in my note Y. When I press OK, that adjustment will show up and it will be at the bottom of the Schedule 2. Take note that the tax adjustment is slightly different and it has two options. It can automatically be calculated through a tax table, or you can manually input that information. After you've adjusted items, I always go to the summary statements. All of the ratio analysis and all of the income methods and the market methods are all driven from the summary statements. So this is my double check in the system to make sure going forward I have everything correct. I especially take a look at the interest and depreciation and amortization going forward here. The next big folder is financial analysis. There are common size financial statements inside of here, detailed. There are trends that are inside of here. So I can look at compound annual growth trends on a particular item. So I can work my way backwards and, so I can kind of do a circular piece here and say, do I have the right amounts inside of here? Do I have normal amounts? Is something outstanding? Is something exceptional? I can download RMA data so I can do an analysis of how my company sits inside of the industry it's looking at. And this data here will populate automatically. I suggest you look at the databases to see how that works. Let me go through one particular method here, the capitalization of cash flows, and show you how I do this as if you were looking over my shoulder. I go to the assumptions. The assumptions are on top and it applies to everything down below. So this assumption here applies to these 4 schedules. If I were to use the long-term sustainable growth up here, whatever I type into this box will flow through to my different schedules below it. So all of the income methods will use that. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. Same goes for company-specific risk. On the assumptions, I choose what I want my parameters to be, after-tax cash flow. So I'm going to use the adjusted base. Debt-free applies the weighted average cost of capital. I typically don't use weighted average cost of capital. I go direct to equity, so I leave that uncheck marked. The ongoing capacity will tell me how the benefit stream is projected to year 1. I go to weighted average typically. I'm a build-up kind of guy, so I use build-up capitalization rate. We do offer CAPM as an approach, so if you have betas and you're using betas, you can click on that. The SBBI or Duff & Phelps, in today's modern world, we're using Duff & Phelps CRISP data, the Duff & Phelps decile information. I choose excess of CAPM, that's how they usually say to do things. You can use 10Z, 10B, or 10. We'll just click in 10Z at this point here. Capitalize against year 0 or year 1. Year 1 would be for like IRS type audits where you want to say, here's my benefit stream and I'm going to grow it for that first year, and that's where I'm going to start from. In Colorado, where I come from, you can't go past a data trial in litigation. So I would click on year 0 if it was for a litigation environment. And what it's going to do is take the discount rate and adjust it back to year 0. Industry risk stuff, if I use the industry risk premium, I click on check mark on that. Mid-year convention, I don't use a mid-year convention, so I leave that uncheck marked. And then I apply my premiums and discounts down here. The next step would be to go to the benefit stream. White boxes, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is how I typically start my weighting without using any analysis whatsoever. But I would then look at it and say, does that make sense? Is there a particular year that needs to have a 0 by it? That sort of thing. The white boxes down below get filled in for my after-tax amounts, and I can go from there. Capitalization rate. On the capitalization rate page, I get to download my data. I come up here to the Duff & Phelps decile information, click on my taskbar button, and the data will populate down below. It adds all of that up, applies my growth rate, and I have a capitalization rate of 17.5%. These values down here are for when I have a mismatch between my benefit stream and my discount rate. If I click on the cash flow item up here, the schedule will hide itself. If I click on pre-tax, the schedule will hide itself. The indicated value page comes up next. It takes my base, multiplies it by the growth rate, divides it by the capitalization rate that comes up to an indicated equity value. Then it applies the discounts and adds back my excess assets. It then has a selected equity value that I can look at. There's a rate sensitivity schedule inside of Pro that tells me how much I would be off if I was off a little bit. Let's say my growth rate should have been 1.5%. Well, it would be 2185 instead of 2201. And you can see what the sensitivity is on a particular item. Once I have an indicated value, it will go down to the conclusion of value. And I can weight my conclusion of value, or if I'm a choose one kind of person, I will be able to put zeros by all the others and use just the capitalization of cash flow model. But I can see all the different methods on the conclusion of value. It also has sanity checks inside of here where I can use a relative value analysis or a hypothetical term of sale. In other words, could somebody actually borrow money and use the cash flows to service that debt and pay for the particular company? The last thing I want to talk about are custom worksheets. Custom worksheets are where you can type in information so that you can expand on a particular item. Let's say that you need to do a compensation analysis. Well, you can type in a little compensation analysis here. Let's say you need to do a working capital analysis. You could do a small little working capital analysis here. If it's larger than that, you probably want to use an outside Excel book and bring that Excel workbook into your report using the Report and Workbooks workspace. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how to use the program for the first time. In the Analysis working space, go over, work your way from the top of the Navigator to the bottom of the Navigator and find out what each schedule looks like and what it might be used for in engagement. You can look at each folder and see which ones are critical to your particular workflow. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how the program is set up to work. Good luck on your future projects.